To make these weave development samples, I have played around with corroding them and blending them and mixing them with different materials. This one I use a plastic and a sand-based material, and it's made it really cool and crunchy, and it's just really changed the effect and the feel of the fabric. This one I used cheese wax, and I've kind of warmed it with my hands and just really like pressed it into the weave sample and really try to get right in there. I've also played around with different angles of taking the photos and perspectives. For this one, I actually boiled the wax from the cheese wax and dipped it in, and it made a kind of like oil, kind of like loose wax. So it was quite strange, but it coated the fabrics really nicely. This one I used with just a little bit of leftover wax I had, and I just kind of pressed it in and completely submerged it into the wax, just leaving it how I put it in and creating a kind of interesting shape and interesting textures. This one I did the same thing, except I flattened it out so that when it dried it would be flat. It's also really changed the texture, so it's very crunchy. This one I used some leftover wax and just dipped the ends in to give it like an interesting weighted effect. This one I actually use birthday candles. So I first tried dripping the wax, but then I did the same thing in the end, boiling it and dipping in my fabric. This is what I did with the leftover wax, just dipping in some threads into clumps and completely submerging some of them, just to play around with how it affected the texture. This one I just only used a yellow birthday candle, and I melted it by dripping it onto the wax. Onto the yarn. This one I've actually used plastic, and I had to iron it onto it, which took some experimental process because it was really difficult to get it so it wouldn't stick to the tinfoil I was using. But altogether, I think it's really cool and really interesting, and I really like the different things I've made. Also, I feel like they're really playing around with the texture and the color of the weaves and really changing their looks, and this can also really be seen with how I've played around with the lighting and the angles I've taken with using the photographs and just my own phone, and then doing a little bit of editing at the end just to make them more pop in color. Thank you!